This is BBC News. Welcome if you're watching here in the UK or around the globe. I'm Geetha Gurumuthy. These are the top stories. Britain's government is accused of utter failure for new asylum rules to stop migrant boats crossing the Channel. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak insists his plan is the people's priority.
We're doing what's right, we are acting with compassion, we are acting with fairness, and we are acting to respect the laws and borders of our country.
This is their 5th Prime Minister, their 6th immigration plan, their 7th Home Secretary, and after all this time, all they offer is the same old gimmicks and empty promises.
A BBC spokesperson has said one of its highest paid presenters, Gary Lineker, is being spoken to after he criticised the government's immigration plans on social media. Kyiv denies any involvement in reports that a pro-Ukrainian group was behind September's attack on the Nord Stream pipeline.
I think that investigation of official authorities will describe every details, because it's like a compliment for our special forces, but this is not our activity.
The UN Secretary-General is in Ukraine for further talks on extending a deal to export grain via the Black Sea. The daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex has been christened at the couple's California home. Princess Lilibet Diana was born last June and christened on Friday. Hello and welcome. Britain's Prime Minister has been defending his government's new plan to stop migrants arriving illegally in the UK on small boats. Rishi Sunak told the House of Commons that only the Conservatives would stop the boats. But the Labour Party leader, Sir Keir Starmer, said the government is simply offering gimmicks and empty promises. Well, the measures announced yesterday would effectively ban those who come here illegally from claiming asylum and require that they be detained and deported.
The Prime Minister says they will detain people who aren't eligible to claim asylum here and then return them. Well, they already tried that under the last legislation. Last year, 18,000 people were deemed ineligible to apply for asylum. That's the easy bit, the talk. But as for the action, Prime Minister, how many of them have actually been returned?
He asked about arrests, he asked about our laws. Actually, when I was in Dover yesterday talking to our law enforcement officials, what did they tell me? Precisely because of the law that the Conservative government passed last year, they have now been able to arrest more than double the number of people they did before. 397 in the last 6 months. But stopping the boats, Mr. Speaker, stopping the boats is not just my priority, it is the people's priority.
Well, that was some of Prime Minister's questions a little earlier. Our correspondent Jonathan Blake is in Westminster. And Jonathan, we saw quite a fiery, sort of personalised session of Prime Minister's questions today. We've known for a while that the Tories want to weaponise immigration. It's something that they feel helped win them Brexit and that has been politically useful to them at a time when they're lagging in the polls.
Well, watching the exchanges in the House of Commons today, it's clear that Conservatives feel they're on the front foot with this issue. There was cheering from the Tory backbenchers and jeering at Sir Keir Starmer's questions. And Rishi Sunak seemed more confident, I think, than usual with his answers. They feel that Labour doesn't have a plan to tackle what the Conservatives see, at least, as a very important issue, one of Rishi Sunak's 5 stated political priorities, but that hasn't stopped a lot of criticism coming the government's way from Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour Party and elsewhere about this latest plan. And as Sir Keir Starmer put it, what he sees as the latest utter failure of the government to tackle this issue. He was trying to pin down the Prime Minister on how many people have been deported under existing laws that the government has brought in and when exactly it plans to have this new system up and running of turning people back and sending them away. But because it isn't something that Sir Keir Starmer has made a political priority of his own, there is a danger for him that he's seen on the defensive about this issue, which many people feel strongly about. His tactic is clearly to try and press the government on exactly how its plan will work and point to what they see, what Labour sees as previous failures of this Conservative administration and previous ones to do anything about it.
And Jonathan, the language is incredibly heated on this issue, as it often is. We've seen rows involving, the BBC, one of the BBC presenters that we've mentioned, Gary Lineker, and we're also seeing fundamental questions at the heart of this about whether the government's plans go against the Refugee Convention. Is there a way of determining the consensus on that point without it going to the courts first?